Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside cold, snowy Louisville, Kentucky, and in cold and probably soon to be snowy Maryland. My longtime friend, esteemed colleague, wonderful coach, and mentor of young men, John Webster. John, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing real good, man. It's kind of cold around here, man. Kind of
Yeah.
cold.
Your favorite
Uh,
weather, right?
yeah, okay. I look. I'm still sitting at my desk, and I don't even want to go to my car and get in the car.
Oh, you do. Oh man, you working.
Yeah, well, I'm off, but I didn't want to drive and get caught in the traffic, so
Yeah,
I
I hear
said
you.
stayed around here so we could do that here. Um, Enough about me. Our main man, our traffic cop, the one and only John Pitt. How you doing, man?
Well, pretty good. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, I tell you, it's been an interesting week of sports, John. We got a lot to talk about today. You know, NBA. Let's see, NCAA, men and women, and something near and dear to my heart, NASCAR racing. So, hey, you take it away, man. Tell me what you want to talk about first.
Well, let's start with a little bit about this NBA. You know, you and I have been so locked in on football that we haven't even had a chance to really get into the NBA and the NCAA. You know, we had some interesting trades. I want to get your thoughts on them, man. How you think this is going to help some of these teams? The Bucks made a trade. They traded Chris Middleton to the the Washington Wizards. And in return, the Bucks got Kyle Kuzma. What do you think?
Well, I'm surprised that the Bucks made that kind of trade for one of their cornerstone players that helped them win an NBA championship a few years ago. But I understand with age and injuries, he hasn't been available that much. And of course, anything in any sport involves looking at the bottom line that it is probably getting a little too expensive to keep him if they were going to keep him. So you unload him now. I think the trade, in a sense, kind of helps them getting Kyle Kuzma, who's still obviously a serviceable player and probably could contribute in a way that Middleton can't anymore. I mean, physically, I still think he's kind of I don't want to say a rising talent, but he's still young enough that he can be a really good contributor in the right situation. So I think it does help Milwaukee in that regard. Middleton, only thing I want to say is that someone with that kind of experience coming to the Wizards, which is a young team, a team really lacking in just about everything you can think of. I'm going to say confidence. I lost track of how many wins they have. I know they're probably pushing the Philadelphia 76ers for fewest wins if they aren't close.
Well, they at one point were on a 3 or 4 game winning streak. And to be fair to the Wizards, they are preparing for the future. So I don't think Chris Middleton will be around next year.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion on Chris Middleton, I think I just think he would have helped Milwaukee more than Kuzma. But I think it's a contract issue and being able to sign him next year. I think so. They made the move. But how about this next one? Lakers and the Mavericks. The Lakers get Luka. The Mavericks get Anthony Davis.
That's one, John. I mean, it's been almost 2 weeks, and I'm still trying to get my head around why Dallas would make a trade like that for a guy who could have been the face of the franchise. You know, yeah, really could have been the face of the franchise for years to come. Much like Joker is the face of the franchise for Denver, and I, I guess really the Lakers I feel like made out great in that. It would be great for the Mavericks if Anthony Davis were available, and now we have to wait and see. But you know, trading a guy that probably could have been as big for you as Dirk Nowitzki would have been for a long time to come. And I'm pretty sure he liked being down there in Dallas. And yeah, I mean, they're coming off an NBA Finals appearance that nobody expected in a really tough and competitive West. And he really got the best out of Kyrie Irving. I mean, you think about the trades that they made a year ago for PJ Washington and how that seemed to be the final piece of the puzzle to get them over the top again in a tough Western Conference and get to the finals. They just didn't have enough for the Celtics in the end. And you figure, okay, yeah, they were struggling a little bit this year, but getting rid of him, I don't understand it, and I don't think Mavericks fans understand it either. But if you're the Lakers and you're thinking this is an old team, I don't know who we build around because we've just been getting retreads, year after year. Thanks a lot, LeBron. And now they've got a guy that they can really, really build around, a big guy that they can build around who can do a whole lot of things, kind of like Joker. So it helps the Lakers, but it's mystifying why the Mavs would make a deal like that. And I love Mark Cuban and his business acumen in terms of running a franchise, but that's one that I really don't understand why they did it.
In regards to Mark Cuban, he doesn't have as much say so anymore since he sold a lot of the franchise now.
Yeah, that's true. And
Yeah,
I'm kind of thinking, yeah, you're right about that. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I think he still has a little bit of influence. But yeah, you make a good point.
I saw an article where he was scratching his head. He's not really sure about it. My thoughts are Anthony Davis. They say they want a rim protector. They want a defensive player. So that's obviously saying that Luka is not the defensive player they want. Anthony Davis is 7'1". He protects the rim. He can go outside and shoot. He can play down low. He's a great player. But, but Anthony Davis has a tendency to be injured. And I don't know if he's ever played a complete season. Now, the other thing, the old saying is you can't coach height. You just got somebody 7'1". You can't coach height, but you can't coach height if the heights on the bench hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Now, as far as Luka is concerned, I think Luka is one of the. I was going to say 10. I think he's one of the 5 best players in the league.
Mm.
Now, what the Dallas Mavericks did is what a lot of franchises do. I don't agree with it. You badmouth a guy as he's going out the door, which I don't think was right. You're talking about his health, his weight, and all this kind of stuff.
Work
And
ethic, I've even read
worth ethic. And I just don't think that's a fair thing that they did to him on his way out the door. Now, here's the other question they got. Do I think Luka and LeBron can play together? My first take. Well, go ahead, Gary.
No,
What
no,
do
I
you?
don't have anything to say. No, you go ahead. I was waiting for you.
My first take, when I think about it, would be no, because they're both ball dominant.
Mhm.
But when I take a step back and look at, for one, let's be clear. When Luka gets on the court, he's the point guard, not LeBron. Luka is the point guard. So, but one of the things I'll say about LeBron James, he can play all the positions on the court. He can play a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. So he would have to play a 4, a 3. I don't think his shot is consistent enough to put him at a 2 regularly, but he would also have to be playing off the ball. You have 2 very highly skilled and very smart players with the ball in their hand, which is LeBron James and Luka. I just know somebody cannot be ball dominant. And I think LeBron has to take the step back and let Luka be the ball dominant one. It's kind of like what they had in Dallas last year. Kyrie Irving went to the off guard and Luka was handling the point, and it worked well. Now, if I'm a GM, I would do something crazy nobody else would do. You ready?
I'm ready.
I got Luca. What I don't have is an aircraft carrier. I had one and he failed the physical. And the Lakers are playing well. They're 30-20 or 30-19. They're in the fifth spot right now. They are better than they were last year at this point. And they're going to be in the playoffs, but I think they may end up with a fourth seed. I don't think they can get higher. I don't think they'll be above Memphis, OKC, or who else is that? Houston. I don't think they'll be that, but I think they can get a four.
Yeah, and they can host a series, first
Yeah,
round.
they can host a series and they can advance. Now, what I will say, I would make one more trade at the end of the season. Can't do it now. And here we go, Gary Graves. I would trade LeBron James for Joel Embiid.
I can see.
Crazy move, crazy move.
I
But
think we
you
did. We discussed that at one point.
yeah. Now
And
Embiid, if you bring Embiid to the Lakers, all the pressure's off of him. He's not the main man. He's the second fiddle. Luka's still the franchise. He's still the face. And all of a sudden now you got a 7-footer. Now Embiid's not my favorite 7-footer because he plays too much out on the rim, on the wing. But you got an aircraft carrier now. You also have to look at the injuries. Hopefully he will not have the injuries. But at the same time, I'm going to trade LeBron James because he's at the end of his career. And you sometimes you have to make these. That's what Red Auerbach used to do. He used to make the moves nobody thought were smart. And you can't be reckless, but sometimes you got to take a chance.
John, I can't really argue with that at all because in Philadelphia, LeBron could be a compliment to Maxey, and even at 40 years old, you're right. He's at the end of his career, but I think you still have someone who's motivated and could find a way to blend with a guy like Maxey. I mean, I would dare say it's Maxey's team. I mean, I dare say that it's his team now. Um, but in terms of MB going to the Lakers, here's the big if, and it's kind of like what you were saying about Anthony Davis in Dallas. That all the traits that you mentioned about Davis apply if he's available. With Embiid, all the things, all the attributes, traits, pluses and minuses of having that aircraft carrier work if he's available and if he's dialed in. Most of everybody's question with Embiid is what's going on up here and maybe what's going on in here. I don't know how much having Luka as a teammate would do that. But you got to get somebody to light a fire under him because again, it's when he's good, he's very good. But when he is like on planet Zatox or whatever, you never know what's going to come out of his mouth, and you don't know where his heart or his head is from night to night. These phantom injuries where he don't want to play back to back. He can't play back to back. A lot of that is he just doesn't want to. That's the way I look at it, from out here.
I don't want to get into questioning his head or his heart, but what I will say is I think he could use a change of environment, a change of venue, and I think that could help him. Maybe help his injuries heal a little bit quicker, Gary. And, you know, um,
All of them, you mean?
scenery has a way of doing that for people sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
but here's a question. Okay, we know how Philly sports fans are. We know how the Philadelphia sports market is, I'll say in general. But you go from go from Philly to LA, Hollywood, humongous fishbowl, an even bigger fishbowl in Philadelphia, and a very demanding fan base. How does he handle that? How do you think he can handle that?
I think he could handle it because there's no harder There's no harder market or fan than Philadelphia. I don't care whether it's the Eagles, the Sixers, the Phillies, or the Flyers.
Yeah,
That's in my opinion, that's probably the one or two hardest market in all the sports. I
yeah.
think I think he'll be fine if you put him in LA. I really do.
I
So we'll see.
I hope you're right. Now, the other trade we haven't talked about is Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. What's your
Hmm.
take on that one?
I think I don't think Golden State can win a championship, but I think they can be somebody that you better think twice about. I think it was a good trade for Golden State. Yes, they lost Wiggins, but you gained a player that is such a contrast to Steph Curry and such a compliment to Steph Curry.
Yeah,
Steph Curry is a point guard who's looking to hit shots from the perimeter all over the place, constant movement, can't stay still. Great player. Jimmy Butler's going to get you in that paint. He's going to put you in a tilt-a-whirl, and he's going to do damage to you. Jimmy Butler is not a great outside shooter, but Jimmy Butler is a great scorer. And the
yeah.
one thing Golden State did not have is another consistent score. I
I like
think
that.
having him puts
Me,
everybody else back in the position they need to be in. Buddy Hield is not a number two, in my opinion. Buddy Hield is great coming off the bench, and now he's a three or fourth option. Draymond Green, all of a sudden now his skill that he brings to the table with his acumen, his passing, his dribbling takes a whole nother level now because you have Butler on one wing, Steph Curry on another. So you have different things that are happening that are definitely going to be a plus. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like I said, I don't know if they can win a championship, but they will be somebody you got to think seriously about when you play them.
yeah, yeah. I'd agree. And what you were saying about him being a scorer, he's a scorer in a way that Klay Thompson wasn't in terms of getting in there and mixing it up in the lane. I love it from the standpoint that again, when he is dialed in, when he's motivated, I don't want to question his. Well, I don't think health is a question with him. Again, I think it's just just what mood is he in on a Tuesday. But
Again, a change of scenery has really healed his injuries.
yeah, yeah, amazingly. But yeah, I agree with you that he's a perfect complement to Steph. Every time I watch Steph, and I think his best years behind him, he still shows little things that's like there is still something left in the tank. And I know that it hurt him in a lot of ways when Clay went to Dallas. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it hurt him personally, and I think it kind of hurt him professionally. Having a guy like Jimmy Butler, who let's get right down to it, doesn't really care what folks think about him. I do think he cares about winning. I think he cares about being in a situation, where he knows that he can win. I don't know, and I think that might have been a situation in Miami where they went to the final 2 years ago, and that might have been a limit for him. Of course, that team was limited by injuries, and we'll never really know what they could have done if healthy. But Butler out there, I mean, I'm waiting to see all those buckets. I really am. And I'm talking about long term. Yeah, they seem to be playing well together. And like you said, he seems to be suddenly healed from all of those little hurts that kept him sidelined in Miami. So we'll see. But let's
It's
go. Let's go to the next level. Or the one. Let's go down a level to the NCAA. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, bro.
It's all right. I was going to say the same thing you're saying. My mind is thinking like yours. I'm on a great side today.
Yeah, you know, with the NCAA, okay, well, I'm going to start in a different direction. Notre Dame is a team, your Notre Dame Fighting Irish Women are a team that what I saw last night against Duke, I don't know if you watched that game, but a close game became a blowout so fast that I'm like, this team is really, really scary between Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles, and you were talking about a team with 2 point guards, or you talk about basically having 2 point guards. They are 2 point guards. The difference is they are 2 point guards that work well together and know where the other one is, and no matter who has the ball in their hands, they will facilitate something. Case in point, I heard a commentator make state that Notre Dame likes to play 4 players out, sometimes 5 players out. But all of a sudden, those 4 players, or one or two of those 4 players out on the perimeter, one of them will make a cut to the basket, or two of them, and Olivia Miles finds a way to hit them in stride in the lane. Boom, layup. There were a couple of times where where Miles got defensive rebounds, dribbled twice up court, found Hidalgo on one, and oh gosh, I forgot the forward. All of a sudden, my age is catching up with me, and found her on another one. That's court sense. On the other hand, you've got Hidalgo, who's a great defender, who's a scary defender, probably one of the scariest I've ever seen in college ball. Who can just get in there, get in your face, can pick your pocket. Next thing you know, she's got somebody on the other end. And that's court sense. That's without taking a dribble, John. It's really uncanny how well they are. And I know you love it because you love your Notre Dame Fighting Irish no matter which team it is. Am I right? I am right. Okay. Yeah, I saw that, but I was, just lobbing you a softball, bruh.
But here's what I'll say: Notre Dame's playing really great ball right now. Game last night against Duke, Duke was up 24-25, and then within the next 5 minutes they were down 49-24 or something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was something like a 19-2 run.
Yeah, they went on an unbelievable run. I think,
and that was after 2 timeouts too.
Yeah, and I think on the women's side, you have Notre Dame, you have Texas, you have USC, UCLA, you have UConn, South Carolina, LSU. Those are some of the teams I see that are really strong. What's going to set these teams apart? And I saw it Sunday. UConn has Paige Beckers and Azzi Fudd. Those are 2 people that can spread you out, handle the ball, and pass. And oh, by the way, shoot very well. And then they can get it to others who can shoot as well. Then you got an aircraft carrier in the middle. They beat South Carolina on Sunday because they controlled the boards. They also, I think they out-hustled them. I think South Carolina had a bad game, unfortunately. I don't think they'll play that bad every time against UConn, but I think UConn will beat them 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, because the thing I see is a similarity with LSU, South Carolina, and Texas. They're all very strong defensively. They're very gritty. They're well coached, but they do not have consistent outside shooting. They don't have something like on South Carolina, you have Pow Pow. If Pow Pow is off, if she did not have a great shooting game Sunday, who else can step up to get it? A lot of the points that they're trying to generate are generated off of turnovers. So if you're generating off a turn, that is great. That's beautiful. If you're getting a lot of points off your press and off your defense. But if you have a team like UConn who's not thrown off by your press, who's breaking it, who's bringing the ball up court and still setting up an offense and running pick and rolls and back doors and everything else, then you got to figure out a way to make your own offense on the other end. And I think those 3 teams are very good. Don't get me wrong, Gary. I'm not saying they're not, but they will struggle in the NCAA tournament because they are not. I don't think their offense is one that has consistent outside shooting. Again, I'll say they're very good teams, but I don't know how far they go this year. Either three or any of the three of them because they don't have consistent outside shooting. I think a team like UConn is going to give people problems. Last night I watched USC. USC was losing. I can't remember who they were playing against. And all of a sudden, Juju Watkins got on a roll and a couple of those other kids, and they spread you out and they do back doors, dribble pass, dribble picks, all that kind of good stuff. And they're getting good shots off of it. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with. Notre Dame, and I don't say a lot about them because I'm biased about all Notre Dame sports. So you already know what I think, and sometimes that's not the realistic thing to think. But I think they have very good guards, Hidalgo and Olivia Miles. They're interchangeable. They remind me of the old Celtics with Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson. You have two guards. You don't have 2 point guards or 2 shooting guards. You just have 2 guards. And they do well, and you have people that can spot up off of what they do and hit outside shots consistently. And I think them, USC, UConn, they're going to be dangerous in the tournament. If the game is played in a fluid match, in a fluid way, with shooting and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't get caught into where you turn the ball over and all that, I think they can go a long way.
Yeah. I agree with you. The thing about Notre Dame that impressed me, and I've seen them 4 times this year. Actually, I've seen them probably 5 times. Probably have seen them more than I've seen Louisville, including that one game where they played here against Louisville. And the forward, Sonia Citron, who I was trying to remember her name. You never know. Well, what scares me about Notre Dame is that besides having 2 point guards who can facilitate, but they can also score. Notre Dame hasn't needed them to score necessarily, but the 2 of them have been good enough to feed everybody else. What's dangerous about Notre Dame is when those 2 score, it's a wrap. And I feel like right now they're trying to get their. I mean, they won a game against a very good Duke team. I think Duke came in number 11, and of course, the Irish were just hours after being voted number 1. But Duke was a very good team, and they matched up well with Notre Dame. But when Notre Dame started knocking down shots, when they were making stops on the other end, when they went on that run, you saw Miles in the middle. You saw Hidalgo just hounding whoever had the ball, but she was hounding them in the backcourt. Ease off a little bit, then come right back, hound them again. They committed turnovers. Most of them ended up in Miles's hands. Most of them ended up in Hidalgo's hands on the other end, for fast break baskets. That transition game is very dangerous. But if the 2 of them start hitting from outside, which they can, that's what scares me the most about Notre Dame. About UConn, all those reports about UConn kind of being dead and buried or whatever were premature because Paige Beckers, you're seeing what she can do in a full season, fully healthy, and she's got help around her. That's the thing about UConn is a very deep squad. South Carolina is not that deep. They need an inside presence. I think that's the one thing that they have lacked against Texas and against UConn is really an inside presence. And I'm not talking about size. I'm talking about somebody that really can be, to use your term, an aircraft carrier, to really be physical. And I think that's something that Dawn Staley is trying to develop. In the meantime, I think she's just trying to get a rotation that can just get in somebody's face. That's where I've seen them kind of falter sometimes, and I think that's the thing that they've really got to correct it in a month.
Yeah, they with South Carolina, they lost one of their interior players. I can't remember her name. She tore her knee up,
Yeah,
and that was a big loss because she
and Bull
was
Wiley has
somebody.
been kind of up. I mean, she's been kind of battling injuries as well.
Well, and for a while, you have to be patient and realize she's going to make a lot of spectacular plays. but she's also going to make some mistakes. So you got to be patient and you have to roll with the tide. There's going to be some great plays, but there may be a couple plays that we need to get back. But she's a tremendous player, and she gives it her all. Even in that game, and it was out of hand, and UConn had to win. But the whole team, they Dawn Staley type of players. They are an image of her. There's no give up in them. They play hard the whole time. So it's just you ran into UConn, and UConn is tough, man.
Yeah, yeah, they really are. On the men's side, okay, I'm in SEC country,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is just raving about how strong the SEC is, and I mean, I think it's justified. I'm not one to say that they're the best conference in the nation. I'm just saying right now. I mean, they have the most teams in the top 25, most teams in the top 10, and they're the best conference this year. But what often happens, John, in a league like that is they do what? They cannibalize each other.
Up on each other every week.
Yep, every week. Like um, as we speak, Kentucky is taking on Vanderbilt at home. Vanderbilt beat them in Nashville the last meeting. Vanderbilt gave Tennessee a game. I mean, again, that's another team that it really is a stacked league. Again, I hate to keep using that term again. Is that we have to kind of really qualify what this league is. As good as all these teams are, and I do think Auburn deserves the number one spot because what they did in going to Alabama and not only taking charge, but they took the Alabama's best shots and then just kind of backed off and then they took their best shots, and that was with Janai Broome limited by fouls and and other things. And say whatever about Bruce Pearl, but he's a hell of a coach. He really is. He's what 5 years, 5 6 years from a Final Four. He's got another Final Four capable team. And I do think if there is a team that really is capable of not only winning the regular season but winning the tournament and going deep, I do think it's Auburn. I like Tennessee, but I don't trust Tennessee because there are games that they win games that they probably shouldn't win, and then they lose at home to Florida, which they shouldn't. And every time I see them in the second or third round of the tournament, but more in the second round, every time you start to think this team can go deep, they underachieve. They hit a wall for some reason. And you and I we're familiar with Rick Barnes from his days at George Mason and Texas, and I feel like this guy is he's a great coach, but something about that team just every time I want to believe in them, they just don't go far. They're like the college's version of the old Denver Nuggets that we used to throw under the bus until a couple of years ago.
I would tend to agree with you, Gary. I think Tennessee's biggest thing. Rick Barnes' team's always going to be strong defensively. They are going to be solid. The question is, can they score enough points? And I don't think they'll go. I don't think they're a Final Four team. I don't think they can go that far. I think Florida could surprise some people. They're still in the top five in the country. Alabama, my man Nate Oates, he's the analytical person on 3-point shots. He turns 3-point shooting into trigonometry. But they get it done. I've always been
That's a great description. I love that.
I've always been a fan of Bruce Pearl. He has a good team this year. He has a very good team this year. Janai Broome is in the running for being Player of the Year. Uh, I like the guard. I can't even think of the guard's name. He had the two different color tennis shoes on, and he was the one that got him going in the second half, and had him hold on and hit some very key shots at the end. You know, I think the guy Cardwell, that's a big aircraft carrier to get in the middle. I think he's very good, takes up a lot of space, but he makes some fouls you wish he would not make.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
this other kid they got, Baker Azara. I don't know if you remember last year, he played in the game against Yale and he got thrown out, and Auburn never recovered and they lost.
yeah,
And I saw him lose his cool a little bit on Saturday. He's a very good player, but you gotta just be with him all the time to keep him calm. You know, I think Bruce Pearl, 1 through 10, has a very tough team and they'll be hard to beat. Then you got that team on Tobacco Road. I think you call him Duke, with Cooper Flag. So they're going to be somebody to be reckoned with too. I'll give you a team that you really need to look at, a sleeper. Michigan over in the Big Ten. You got Michigan State, but Dusty May has done a really good job this year over at Michigan. They got this kid, he's like a 7-foot point guard. I can't remember his name right now. And he's a great player, doing wonders over there at Michigan. Need to watch him in the tournament. And, and Dusty May took Florida Atlantic to the Final Four, if you remember, Gary. So
yeah.
a Final
Right.
Four is not something new to him or strange to him or unfamiliar to him. He could make a run. He could definitely make a run. So we'll see, man. I know I sat up and watched these games this weekend. This is the first weekend I could sit down and watch basketball without thinking about football. So I really enjoyed it. Now, I'll say this to you. You had a weekend without football, and it gave you a chance to think about your other love in your life. The Daytona 500 and William Bryan winning for the second straight year, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it just confirmed what I've always said about the Daytona 500. You could be the best driver, you could have the best car, but you have to be in the right place at the right time. And William Byron would probably be the first to admit he was lucky on that one because and looking at the end of that race, it looked like it was really it was Denny Hamlin's race to lose,
Mm-hmm.
and he just got caught up in a wreck, like it always happens. I think he thought that maybe with another wreck that they would throw a caution, and he was in good position to win if that had happened. But because of how the guy that spun out, and I'm trying to remember who it was, but the guy spun out down into the infield, but he saved the car, so they didn't throw the caution while all that mess is going on. Byron just finds a hole and he's just there in overtime to to take the checkered flag, and sometimes that's how you have to do it. You have to lay back, and you really need a lot of luck with cars bunched together like that. I don't know how much of the race you saw, but really it was a boring race for probably about 180 of 200 laps. And of course, the action happens. There's the big one. There was a car that went airborne and pinwheeled a couple of times, and of course, the guy just walks away from it. It the big one is always the determining factor in who wins. And if you have several big ones, and now in restricted car plate racing for those bigger tracks like Talladega and Daytona, that cars are bunched together so tightly that it's just a matter of what lap does it happen on late in the race. And Sunday was a perfect example. You could almost predict it. And I'll just say, William Byron, congratulations to him. He knows that track, just like Denny Hamlin, knew that track and was going for like his third or fourth Daytona win. But William Byron was there, and congratulations to him. And Jeff Gordon's old 24 Chevy, by the way.
Well, man, I'm glad you had a chance to watch the Daytona 500. I know how much it means to you. Congratulations to William Byron. Gary, take us home, man.
Well, okay, let's see. Where do we go? All right. Hockey. We've got the Four Nations Cup being decided between the USA and Canada. the U.S. Team USA is not very liked up there right now, but it's them in Canada again, and we'll see what happens with that. Second half of the NBA season, the stretch run begins now. We'll see how all those trades pan out, and of course in the NCAA, John, we've got We've got a whole lot of rivalry games coming up in women's and men's basketball over the next week. That could shake things up in the ratings a lot more. And the main thing that I'm looking forward to is pitchers and catchers have reported, and everybody else comes in this week to spring training. And pretty soon we'll be watching baseball.
Well, I'll just say this to you, Gary, and you can give a rebuttal the next episode. Pitchers and catchers are in,
Mm-hmm.
and the Orioles already have 3 of their potential starting pitchers on who are injured. They've been in camp less than a week. I'll leave it at that. Everybody, thanks for watching us this week. Watch some sports. Watch the Four Nations Cup. Watch some soccer. Watch some women's basketball. Watch some men's basketball. Watch some NHL hockey as well. But above all else, watch some sports and come back and see us real soon. Take care.